Alright, so this is the video I spoke about, and presumably the last video I uploaded regarding the AirRunner treadmill. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as and condensed as I can. I'm just going to go through a very super basic pros and cons list about or for this AirRunner treadmill. So this one in particular, I imagine most of these things will apply to any manual treadmill, but obviously I can only speak based upon my personal experience, which is confined to the Assault AirRunner treadmill, okay? So I'll start with the cons. First one, it's expensive, okay? And I think that's gonna be the biggest hang up for most people, and it certainly was one of the largest determining factors in whether or not I should buy it. I'm not sure what it currently sits at, but if you're looking at a manual treadmill, I think you're looking at spending anywhere from about $3,500, $3,000 or $3,500 to $11,000, $10,000 or $11,000. That's based upon what I've seen. So I haven't seen or explored every manual treadmill there is out there. I need to get my head in the frame. So if I try to frame it up before I start, it's like a little different. And then when I press record, it sort of frames things differently. Anyways, so the first con is the expense, okay? Now, again, this is a totally personal choice, and if you have the money, perhaps you want to allocate it differently. You want to put it as a down payment on a nice car or something in your house. I don't know. Spend your money however the hell you want. Doesn't matter to me. It makes no difference. But anyways, I'll just leave it at that. It's expensive. So to me, even $3,000, $3,500 is expensive. But especially $10,000 or $11,000 for a treadmill, for goodness sake. The next one is, it's still a fairly new concept, okay? So, and I've been a personal trainer at gyms in the past. I've worked front desk. I've worked at gyms in various capacities when I was younger, probably like 10 years ago or so, okay? But from what I've seen in gyms currently and in recent years, not many gyms have adapted to this new sort of, treadmill type. I'm not sure how to phrase it, but the point is, I haven't seen many gyms with manual treadmills in them, okay? So in the gyms that do have them, there's, one or two, right? And then there's a whole slew of sort of standard treadmills. Nothing wrong with that, but I see it as a con because unless you have a home gym like I do, and you're going to purchase it for your home, there's perhaps less opportunity for you to use it. But the reason I listed this as a con is that from my perspective, if there's less of this sort of item in sort of the fitness industry in general, it may be more difficult to troubleshoot issues because less people have encountered them and know how to troubleshoot them. Let's see. Okay, the next one, not much user data. So this was probably my biggest issue when I was looking for when I was in the market for these treadmills. Reason being is I wanted to find someone who was similarly situated and had used the treadmill roughly the same amount that I had planned to use it, and they just simply didn't exist. It just wasn't there. Okay, so that was my biggest issue when I was looking into it. There's not much user data out there. There just isn't, because it's more of a luxury item, I think, at this point, because it's very expensive, and I think majority of people would prefer to have some sort of social aspect to go with their exercise routine in the form of a gym. So I think most people are not interested in, getting these and using them as I have or as I wanted to when I was looking to buy one. So, when you go to Amazon, right, you look at some cleaning product, I don't know, and you look at the reviews, there's 20,000 reviews. There's just an absurd amount of reviews, right? So you can sort of get an idea of what the product's like and should I invest my money in this? But with these treadmills, and I think at the time I bought this one in particular, the AirRunner, you look on the website and there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 reviews and they're all, oh, this thing is so amazing, buy this right now. Yeah, and you think, well, were these people paid to write these? I don't know. Anyways, I see that as a con. It was probably the largest con for me. Another one is I have no idea how long this treadmill will last, okay? So when I spoke to, I guess they're called Assault Fitness about it, and I have this in writing, I think it's an email. I said, well, what's the expected lifespan of this treadmill? And if I recall correctly, the employee had told me about 15 years. So to me, if it holds up for 15 years, I will be ecstatic with the amount of money I've spent on it and how long I've used it, how much I've used it, if I get 15 years out of it. And I would gladly buy another, or perhaps another manual treadmill of a different variety or a different company. But that's the reality of the situation I'm in. But you have to realize this exists, this con exists with most things in life, manufactured things, right? So gym equipment in general, not just treadmills. So even let's say I had purchased a NordTrack treadmill, okay, a standard, plug-in one with a motor and belt and all that. And I had spent, $5,000 on it, right? Or I got some Precor treadmill, a standard Precor, a really nice new one. I would still be in the exact same position regarding how long the product will last for me. I wouldn't know with that. I can have an idea, and perhaps there would likely be a lot more user data on it. But even if someone had that treadmill, some Precor treadmill, for just as an example, and it lasted, this thing's lasted 20 years, it's great, and nothing negative to say about it. Someone else could have, got the exact same treadmill, right? And it could have lasted them 2 weeks, and maybe it blew up or some crap, I don't know. So that's the same with, this treadmill. I was given an estimate for how long they expect it to last for me, but it doesn't mean it's going to last that long. And in fact, it could take a dive literally any day. I don't know. So, and I think that will be interesting to provide an update video on sometime in the future, assuming I'm still alive and the treadmill's in use. So that's another con. And the delivery of the treadmill I actually see as a con. Now this may sound silly, but I'm in this house alone, so when they delivered this treadmill, the delivery company, they will not bring it in your house, okay? So they can, they said, I said, will you bring it in the garage? I just showed my door. They said, no, because that's part of your house. So I'm like, okay. So basically, they're just going to leave it outside. And for me, it was in front of my front door at the time. And unless you're super jacked and strong, unnaturally strong, I doubt most people will be able to move the treadmill by themselves. So just keep that in mind when you, if you buy this treadmill or something similar, they may not put it inside your house, okay? And if that's the case and you're here alone, even if you live with 3 other people, you have to wait until someone's here to help you bring it in. I actually had to reach out to someone and say, can you help me? Just bringing this treadmill in because otherwise it's going to sit outside all day and all night. And just, I don't know. It was just a very curious situation to find myself in, but I was there for a while. So just keep that in mind. Maybe it's a non-issue for some people. I don't know. But I know with my mother, for example, she just recently bought one of the standard treadmills, and they both delivered it and assembled it in her house, inside of her house. So I don't know if it's unique to Assault Fitness or a variety of other companies. I have no idea. But looking back, that was a con for me. And I would have happily paid more for someone to bring it in my house. And the setup is, in fact, I'm going to add that to the pros, the setup of it. But I would have gladly paid for, I don't know, the full delivery of it. But I think the issue is once they set foot in your house, there's immediately a potential liability issue. So I get that, but I would, I would gladly sign some waiver or something saying, listen, I release you from any liability, you come in my house. Anyways, that's all I have for the cons list at present. So I'm sure there's a number more, but I couldn't think of any additional cons at this time. So perhaps I'll add to it at a later date. Moving along to the pros list, yes. So before I forget, and I just happen to randomly think about it when discussing delivery, one of the pros is the setup of it. It's super easy to set up. So you have the treadmill, itself, sort of the base, and in fact, you can run on just that. You don't have to have the bars. It's more or less more for safety, and then of course the computer that tells you how long you've ran and how fast and all that shows the metrics for your run. That wouldn't be present if you didn't install this. But my point is, you don't have to have it. You can still, the treadmill is still operable without anything attached. So if you take it literally out of the box, you can jump on it and start running, and it'll work just fine. And that's one of the things I like about this treadmill. But the only items you have to install are these two arms, and if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see the treadmill fully assembled, or you can just do a simple Google search. So these two arms, and then it has sort of this U shape, and then it has the monitor up top, and they're really heavy in my opinion. But there's 3 screws in the bottom of each that hold it taut. And then there's a plastic encasing that goes over it, and the plastic pieces are held in by 2 screws. So you're looking at 5, pieces to screw in, or components on either side, and that's it. And you put, I think it's AA batteries, 4 AA batteries in the monitor part of it at top, and you're done. You're good to go. Also, it's on wheels, so the back of it has this bar. So you can sort of deadlift it, and the treadmill is surprisingly heavy. And you lift up the back, and you could walk it around and move it wherever you want in the room or the space you're in. So I really like that about it. And the problem is it's so wide, you have to first get it through a doorway if you're in a home. But once you're in the designated space that you've chosen for it, it's really easy to just sort of pick up the back end and then move it around wherever you want. So I think that's a pro. The starting and stopping, I think that's a really big pro for me. One of the things I hated about standard treadmills is, let's say I get on, this is back when I had a sort of a standard treadmill, I start the pace, I set the incline, and then, to 2, for example, because I always wanted to emulate running outside. So they say in order to do that, you should start the treadmill at a 1.0 to 2.0 incline, and that better simulates running outside, because you're trying to compensate for the fact that the belt is on a motor and it is in fact moving for you. So that belt is going to be moving whether or not you're on it or standing on the side of the treadmill. So you get on, you set the incline, you set the speed, I would at 3.5 or something, to start to walk, right? And then you have to change it to whatever you want your pace to be for majority of the run, or whatever you want to increase it to at that time. And then you literally have to wait. Now granted, it's not a long amount of time, but you have to wait for the belt and the motor to actually get the belt up to that speed. It's not going to happen immediately, okay? But with this treadmill, and I keep pointing on my shoulder because my garage is in this area of the frame or the house. With the AirRunner, you can jump on it and literally start sprinting right away. So the only thing that changes your speed is your body. It's the same with stopping too. So if you're sprinting on it, you'll likely be towards like more the front of the curve. The treadmill is curved more towards the top, the front of it, because you're taking a longer stride. So you can just sort of you'll change your stride, and your footfall will go more towards midway on the belt. And you could slow down as quickly as you want to, or you can just grab the bars and jump off, of course. And that's a huge selling point for me, because I hated fussing with, and again with the deceleration. If you're running on a standard treadmill, let's say you're doing sprints, right? Let's say you've ran for 45 minutes, just as an example, and you think, okay, I want to do a little icing on the cake. I want to finish this off with a few sprints. So you have to speed all the way up to a sprint pace, which maybe it's not fast enough or it's too fast. So you have to sort of troubleshoot that while running, which is annoying to me. And then when you're done with the sprint, you have to sort of feverishly, press the button like slow down, and it's gradually slowing down until you get to a walk or a jog. But with these treadmills, if you want to sprint, you just start running as fast as you want. The belt will go as fast as you make it go. Alternatively, it's going to slow down as quickly as you want it to, or as quickly as your body makes it slow down, okay? So that's a huge selling point to me. I love that feature about the treadmill. And in fact, if some of my videos, you can see I just jump on it, I start running, and then when I'm done, I come to a stop, and it'll take time to get used to that. And you can just jump off. Actually, speaking about the pros and cons is making me think of other pros and cons. So, and I'll just say this as a quick con. There is a learning curve to using it, okay? So it's on a curve, so when you first run on it, it's going to feel a little weird, and it sort of feels as if you're running uphill. So that could be a good or a bad thing depending upon the person. But the point is, it will take some time to get used to running on a manual treadmill. And it's also going to be, for me, it was decidedly more difficult when I first ran on it. I remember my first run on it, I did my standard hour run, and my legs were so pumped, and so much blood had been forced into my quads, my hamstrings, my calves were super sore. It's because if you're used to running on a standard regular treadmill, hopefully I don't have to define that anymore, and if you're watching this video and the previous one, you know what I mean by standard treadmill now. If you're used to running on one of those, the belt is being propelled for you by the motor. So you don't have to actually move the belt. You just essentially have to keep pace with it in order to run on it, okay? With these manual treadmills, the belt is not going to move unless your body moves it by way of your stride, okay? So you're really going to notice it, in my opinion, after you run on it the first time. And your body is just going to be a lot more fatigued running on this. So it's going to take time for you to get used to it. You also have to use more core strength because you have to stabilize yourself. So you may find you're sort of veering off to the left or the right when you're running. And you'll also have to sort of find your foot placement. Where are you going to be landing? I remember when I first started running, I was heel striking, and now I've been reading this book on running, and they suggest midfoot more towards your toes or midsole striking. So when you do that, you'll notice your calves will probably be way more sore after you run. But anyways, I'm listing it as a con because it could be a con to some people. There is a learning curve with it. It's going to take time to get used to running on it. Okay, back to the pros. Okay, so I sort of already spoke to this, increasing and decreasing speed. Okay, that sort of goes to my previous point about starting and stopping. Now you can increase and decrease your speed, just to sort of touch on it one more time briefly, whenever you want and as slowly and quickly as you want. It's up to your body. It's up to how fast you're running on the belt or how slow you're running or walking on it. It's really that simple. It will take time to get used to, but once you do, you'll be able to stop it with ease. It's not going to be an issue. The next pro, and this could be perceived as a con depending upon the person, okay? But there is some data out there, albeit not a vast amount, that shows running on these treadmills takes, I think they said, about 30% more energy than running on a standard treadmill, okay? And as I stated previously, it may feel as though, feel like you're running up a hill when you're on it. So it's going to be more difficult. That's just the reality of it. If you're coming from a standard treadmill, if you're running nothing but outside, maybe it won't seem more difficult. I don't know. But then again, if you're running exclusively outside, you probably don't even want this treadmill anyway. It's of no use to you. You can run for free by going outside, right? But it is a more difficult workout. To me, that's a pro because I want to be in relatively good shape, and I hope to be in good cardiovascular condition as I age, and I hope to maintain that. So something that taxes my cardiovascular system a bit more is appealing to me. I consider it a pro. And you could also build some more muscle using it. And in fact, my stick legs did seem to get a bit fuller in the quad area and the hamstring area after I had started to use the treadmill for a number of months. Again, maybe that's a pro or con, I don't know. That's up to you. I think it's a pro. The next one is the running form. So the fact that the treadmill is curved, it allows for a more natural cadence, I suppose is what the proper term for it. And where where your leg hinges on your hip. So, when you're taking your stride, it's more of a natural form because when you come down, it's coming down in a curve. Your foot is. So it's supposed to mimic a more natural movement. And because of that, it's supposed to be better on your joints, your back, and sort of your body in general. So to me, I think that's a pro. And in fact, I have noticed that. I still have some of the same issues that I've been to physical therapy for in the past that deal with primarily my right side. My glute gets really tight, and my right glute, my right hamstring, lower back, whatever reason. But I have noticed it is noticeably better since using this treadmill. And this is a small one. The next pro is perhaps a very marginal difference on your electrical bill. I don't know. Maybe it's not worth mentioning, but it is something I thought about. So this treadmill has the only electrical component it has is battery powered. So I guess that's none because it's you're not using any electrical outlet. And when those batteries die, you just replace them. And again, it's not absolutely necessary that you even have that component of the treadmill functioning while in use, okay? But I think it is a pro because that can also lead to issues. So, and yeah, in fact, I'll just go into that. If you have a standard treadmill, especially if it's a commercial gym quality grade treadmill, such as a Life Fitness one I had in the past, when you plug that into an outlet, it may require more power than the outlet is giving out. And that could lead to the treadmill shutting off. And in fact, it did at my last house that I sold last year. I had a number of problems. It was in my garage as well. This was a standard treadmill. And it would shut off mid-stride if I increased the speed too much because it was requiring more power than the outlet could actually give the treadmill. And sometimes it would actually switch the breaker and it would shut off power to certain areas of my house. And the treadmill as well, mid-stride. It was a pain. So you don't ever have to worry about that with these manual treadmills. You just get on and run. You don't have to plug anything in. You don't have to worry about getting an electrician to put in a dedicated outlet, which you may have to do if you have a commercial grade standard treadmill in your house. It's just going to require more power than a standard home outlet has to give it. And yeah, this again sort of feeds into the last pro that I could conceive of for this. There's no electrical components to break down, okay? So the belt, it's on these little spinning wheels that are all on bearings. So it's just rolling on those, sort of like a tank wheels. and there's no motor that's going to break down on you. So if you're running, unless the structural integrity of the treadmill is compromised mid-run, you'll probably be okay running on it at any time, okay? And it's not just going to randomly break down, or it's never going to just shut off, as these standard treadmills have in the past for me on many occasions, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. And that also feeds into expenses. So in terms of repair, again, I haven't had any repairs done to this treadmill. I haven't had it long enough, and I hope that I won't have to ever have any repairs done on it. However, if I do, I don't expect to have any sort of repair bill that even comes close to what my previously used standard treadmills had. You know, these $1,000 plus bills to repair, get a new motor, whatever. I imagine it'll be significantly cheaper. I don't know that for a fact. That's my assumption based on what I've seen and my use of the treadmill so far. And those are all the pros and cons I have at this point. Again, keep in mind, it's important that you know my use of the treadmill. I've had it for not even an entire year, okay? Keep that in mind. Be mindful of that. Be mindful of the fact that my regular use of this treadmill includes about an hour-long run and at a moderate pace. So I'm not sprinting on it and I'm not walking, just like a moderate run, 5 to 6 days a week for about an hour. That's what my use of it is, okay? And I've had zero issues with it so far. So keep in mind, be mindful of that when you're considering how long do you intend to use a treadmill? How much abuse are you going to put it through, Perhaps there's more people in your family who are going to use it, or maybe they weigh more than I do. You have to, factor those things in. Because that will, it may degrade the quality of the product faster than it would if it's just one person. There's a number of factors, right? I'm just suggesting that you be very mindful of those when, if you watch this video and you're considering whether or not you should buy one. Anyways, that's as comprehensive of a list as I could come up with as of the time and date of this video. If some person happens to see this and they are interested in buying a manual treadmill, you have a question for me, then I invite you to ask me. I'd be happy to answer it. Hopefully, again, it's constructive and it's not just a question that's a joke. But if you have a genuine question, please, let me know, and I would be happy and eager to try to help in the decision of whether or not to buy one of these. And that's it. Farewell, internet strangers.